Hi friends! Welcome to the Overcomers, a movement and a group of people who have overcome and they've got a story. That's what the Overcomers is all about. You sharing your story. Why? Because there is power in your story and people need you. They need your voice. They need your story of hope, faith, and inspiration that where they're at right now is not the end. They need to know if you can overcome, so can they. Today, I'm excited to share with you another story of one such overcomer. So let's go check out who it is. I'm honored to be here today with my friend, Jaxx Cardenas. Jaxx, thank you so much for being here with us today.
Awesome. Thank you for having me, Jen.
So good to see you, by the way.
Oh, thank you. It's good to see you as well.
So for those who are tuning in and catching this interview, a few things I want to share with you about who Jaxx is. Jaxx is the single mom of two amazing young boys, Corbin and Kalel. Two boys who don't understand why we have to wear a mask right now and don't want to. Can you blame them? She's also a medical assistant in Las Vegas, and she, on a daily basis, works with our most at-risk patients. So these are people who are 65 and older. They're the hardest hit by COVID. Every day, she talks to people with all kinds of issues, whether that's cancer, diabetes, you name it. And they are terrified right now. Some are suicidal. She sees the craziness of COVID and how it's affecting people every single day at her job, having to talk to spouses who even sometimes have lost their spouse. Jaxx herself has gone through depression, and she had a hard divorce. She thought at one time that her relationship with her mom was unrepairable, but she's seen it restored. But what I'm blown away most by in your story and your journey, friend, is your love for the Father and your journey with Him. You love your Yahweh more than anything else in this life. And your two boys know it. And then they know that they're second. You are raising them to know who they can run to when they're afraid because they've seen you do it. And they've seen Him answer. You are a good mom. You are a mom who doesn't give up. Jaxx, most people would give up with all that life has thrown at you. But you choose to trust your Yahweh. Even in the storm you're in right now, even while you're in the middle of the mess, the one thing getting you through every day is Him, and you know that. It's so amazing. And that's why I'm so excited to have you on this interview today and for you to share your story. How did you get to this point with the Father?
Well, it's it's been a long journey and an exciting one too. And now that I look hindsight, I think a lot of times when we look through our lives hindsight, you can see how God really works and the things that happen in our lives that really, that propel you to certain places. But when you're in a mess or when you're in the journey, sometimes it feels like nothing's happening, or it feels hard, or it feels like you're not moving. And I'm definitely still, going through my journey, but it's so much easier. It makes me feel so much more safe, so much more, just comforted that I know that I have my Father in heaven that really, guides me. Because one of the beautiful things about my story, I feel like, is, that He was working in my life even when I didn't really believe in Him. he believed in me. I think that was one of the most powerful things that that happened to me. Um, when I was a little kid, I don't want to say I never grew up without God. I But I remember I was about 10 years old, and I had made friends with a little girl down the street, and she was a Christian. And so she invited me to church, and really my experience with church or God or any of that stuff was really like, um, we went to a church maybe once or twice a year, Christmas and Easter, we made an appearance. I went to her church and it was really fun. And I had questions. So I went to my dad, I asked him, I'm like, "Well, why don't we go to church?" And he was like, he was cooking breakfast, he stopped and he thought about it. He's like, "Well, you know, God is everywhere. God's in the trees, he's in the ground, in the earth, in the sky, everywhere. And you don't have to go to church to ask for forgiveness. Just ask for forgiveness and you're forgiven."
Mm.
And I walked away from that conversation. I was 10, like I said, just kind of like wondering, like, well, what am I supposed to ask for forgiveness for? And like, is God like Santa Claus? Like, he sees you when you're sleeping, he sees you when you're awake, he knows if you've been bad or good. And so I call it, like, I got like this like Santa God effect. And so I was like, wow, like God's like Santa Claus, only instead of getting a lump of coal, you go to a fiery place. And I was like, and I got scared of him
Mm.
as a child. And that's one thing that I realized as a parent, that a lot of times I really feel that it's a really important to teach our kids and teach our children about God, because a lot of times, sometimes, children, or like myself, when I was 10, I made up this idea in my head that God was this big judge in the sky, that he was just waiting to judge me and send me to a bad place if I didn't ask for forgiveness, or if I wasn't good. And it was more of a relationship based off of behavioral stuff, and not so much like a love. And so once I got into my teenager years, my offenses got a little bit more deeper. They got a little bit more harder. I got started becoming more rebellious in my teenager years. And I remember at a very, very young age, I lost a cousin. She was 16, I was 15. And I was like so mad at God, like just mad, like, you judge me if I don't do it right. I have to ask for forgiveness for everything, and I'm always gonna mess up. So how can I please you? And then the thing that hurt me the most was like when my cousin passed away, and I felt like, now you're taking people that I love, you're taking them away from me. And so I just made peace with it at a very young age. Like, well, I'm probably not going to go to heaven, and that was um, a really scary place, to be, because God is so the opposite of that. But I feel so blessed that even in the midst of me, there was points when I was very angry with God. There was points when I didn't want anything to do with God. And even through that, he worked in my life. And all the steps, like now that I look back on it, all the steps that I have taken to get me to this point have really been, him working without me even really knowing it. And, it all came to like a head when I was about 25, 26 years old. And like I said, I was very metaphysical. I believed in the universe and law of attraction and all that stuff. And now that I see that, when I look at those kinds of things, all those things are biblically based. I just didn't know it. So that's why I was attracted to it. I think, now that I look back on it, I was attracted to it because it is biblically founded. And so I was always drawn to those kinds of things. But, my life kind of just came to a head. A lot of people in this last year, 2020, it's kind of been their explosion, like a bomb has gone off in their life. And I've been there. I worked 10 years in the spa and salon industry. I absolutely loved it. And then one day, it was just like one day, suddenly I became allergic to chemicals that I worked with every single day. And I literally became allergic to my job. And honestly, I feel like it was a God intervention, because had that not happened, it wouldn't have propelled me to move out of my comfort zone and to do something different and to do something better. And it wouldn't have propelled me to actually meet with him. And it took me several years to actually even get to the point where I could even accept him into my life. I came to know God at a very late age. I was 31. I remember just, thinking my life is over. I had lost my job because I was literally allergic to the chemicals that I worked with, something that I had done for 10 years. And I didn't know where I was going to go, what I was going to do. We had to walk away from our condo. I had, I had a car, but it was blowing up. When I thought things couldn't get any worse, my husband at the time, he asked me for a divorce. So here I have these two little children. Corbin was 6 months old and Kalel was 2. And I was like, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? And even still, like I said, when I was a kid, I had, had this idea in my head that God was a judge. God was just punishing me. And it was very behavioral based. So in my mind, I was like, well, I must have done something wrong. I must have done something wrong. I must be being punished. He must be angry with me. I said, sometimes God, I think, will bring you down to like a complete rock bottom to get to you. And I think that was the only way that he really could speak to me, was just to bring me down to rock bottom. And I was completely depressed. I ate my feelings. I was emotional eating. One day, my car blew up in the middle of the road. And I had smoke coming out. It was just nuts. And I had no cell phone because my cell phone had gotten turned off, and nobody knew where I was. I was in the middle of the street, and I didn't even get out of the car. The car just stopped at a complete stop. Smoke's coming out, and I didn't even get out because I was like, I'm like, I have no place to live. I have no money, no job. My phone's cut off. Luckily I didn't have my kids in the car with me at that time, but I was just like, this is just horrible. And I just sat there in the car and just bawled my eyes out, just cried my eyes out. And suddenly a man, he pulled in front of me, and he got out of the car, and he was like, pop your hood, and I was like, what? I'm crying. I'm like, I don't have any money. I don't have anything. I can't give you anything. And he's like, don't worry about it. I'm a mechanic. And I was like, what? So he fixed my car in the middle of the road. And at that moment in time, I was like, there has to be a God. Like, only God could do that. Like, how could a mechanic just in the middle of the road come stop and fix my car for me? But that propelled me. He got me home safe, and shortly after that, just a lot of people came into my life. People helped me. They helped me get a new car. You know, I was able to get a good job. I finished my schooling that I was going for. The last day that I was working in the salon, I had met a girl. She was graduating from medical assisting school. And she told me, you know, I just graduated, and they'll help you find a job. They help you with school. So the next day I signed up. And I didn't even really know what I was going for. I just knew that I wanted to, you know, get better. And so I enrolled in school, and I finished schooling. I was able to get I was able to get another job, and get back on my feet. And so that, you know, encouraged me. And so I started going to church, to a church here in Las Vegas. And I would like to say, you know, that I, you know, fell in love with Jesus and the whole thing, and it was all rainbows and unicorns at that point, but it wasn't. You know, I went to church and I liked the message. I liked the message. I liked the way it made me feel. I liked that it was encouraging. But I just couldn't never take that step, that, you know, to get out there and to you know, really give my heart away to God. I was still kind of hesitant to take that step. What ended up happening was actually, you know, the church started talking about tithing. I had a real issue with tithing. And again, you know, it was, a lot of it is rooted in childhood. I understand that now, looking back. You know, I had a family member who had become a Christian, and when he was tithing, or when he was talking of tithing, some other family members, you know, they call him like not smart. They call him stupid, or they said he was dumb for doing that kind of thing, and that the church was just taking his money. And so I think, just, you know, in human nature, one of you know, just our genetic, you know, codings is like, we want to be loved, we want to be accepted. And so I knew, like, back then, I was like, I never want to be a Christian, because I didn't want to be viewed as you know, ignorant or stupid, or if I gave my money to a church, that I would be not a smart move. And so when they started talking about tithing, I kind of got scared, and I pulled back, and I was like, I don't want to come here. They just want my money. And I literally walked out. I walked out in the middle of the sermon in the church. I was like, I'm done. Bye. And I'll never see you again. And so I walked out. Things which really went sideways, because, you know, there was always something missing. I always felt like there was something. I just could never put my finger on it, what exactly was missing in my life. I knew I needed something. I needed love and affection. And what ended up happening was, you know, I lost weight. I had this, you know, job that was good. You know, I was able to get my own apartment, and I was kind of going off on, you know, on a good path, or it seemed like a good path on the outside. But on the inside, there was something that was still gone. There was still something that just I wasn't filled. I didn't feel whole. And so what ended up happening was, I started seeking fulfillment in other places, and other places that were not good. Places like things like drinking, and you know, serial dating, and you know, my life looked really good on Facebook, but inside I was a complete and total mess. And my relationships with my family, especially with my mother, were just in turmoil, you know, and what everybody looked out on the outside, it looked like I was doing good. But on the inside, I wasn't doing, you know, as good as it looked. My mother and I, we had come to a point where we couldn't even be in the same room with each other without yelling or arguing or fighting. And it was getting very toxic. It was getting very very some volatile at times. I had decided that I was going to completely, cut relationship, cut communication. And I remember it was December of 2016. Cut ties. I love her, but I can't let myself be, in that type of relationship, because it was toxic for both of us. It just spiraled. My drinking, spiraled. I started really, going out regular, on the weekends when my kids would go with their father. I was going out on the weekends, and one night I just took it too far, and ended up, waking up, and I was like, I can't do this. Like, I don't want this to be my legacy. I don't want my children to, if I could, it came to a point where there was a situation that I could have died. And I was like, I don't want my children to have this as their memory of their mom. And so I decided then that I was going to stop drinking and try to be sober. And I just remember crying out. I was crying on my kitchen floor, just crying out, like, I want a relationship with you, God, whatever that may be. And, I didn't really even know, like, how or what I was going to do or how I was going to get there. But I just remember crying out that I wanted a relationship with you, with God. And nothing happened. Nothing happened for a while. And until I got a phone call from a friend. She previously, in the months before, I had purchased a ticket to go to this event, and I decided not to go. I decided not to go. I was like, no, this is not for me. I'm just, I'm just going to skip out, because it was a business thing. And I was like, I'm not a business person, like I'm done with that. And so I decided not to go. Well, 6 months later, my friend called me and she said, hey, that lady that you were going to go see? And said, yeah. She said, she's going to be in LA in April, and that's pretty close to Vegas, so you should go. And so I did a little research, and I called, and I found out that I had the credit, or they honored my credit for me to go. And really, I think that I don't think I could have found God any other way, because I was so broken. Like I said, I was trying to stay sober. My mom and I had not talked for probably about 3 months. We were, I'm single mom, and I was serial dating, and the problem with that is, that a lot of times, like I said, I think we're genetic, we're designed to love, and we're designed for acceptance. And when you do that, and you don't honor yourself, and you don't honor, who you are, it chips away at your self-esteem. It chips away at your self-worth. And so I was pretty low in the self-esteem department, and just felt like a failure on every level. I mean, I failed in marriage. I was a single mother, and I just felt like I was failing my kids in so many ways. I felt like I was failing as a daughter. I felt like I was failing in just everything. And so I decided to go to this event, and I drove in there. I showed up 9 o'clock in the morning, and 30 minutes after I showed up, I got a call that my mom was in the hospital, fighting for her life.
Whoa.
Yeah. And I was a complete total mess. I was a mess at that event. I just cried. I cried the entire day. I didn't know what to do. Should I go back home? Would my mom even accept me? Because the last time that we had talked, it was pretty nasty. And so I was in a space where I just didn't know what to do, where to turn. At the end of that day, the woman that put on the event, she invited us. She said, she made it so nice, such a nice invitation. Like, I don't care who you are. I don't care where you've been. I don't care what you've done. I don't care if you're an atheist. I don't care if you're a Buddhist. I don't care if you believe in the universe. Everything that I've taught you today has been from this book, from the Bible. And I was like, whoa, like, that's crazy, And she was like, I want you guys to come tonight, and I want you to, just experience something. And I was like, okay, I mean, what have I got to lose? So I decided to go. It was the first time that I ever heard a worship song or worship music. I went in, and for like an hour there was a band that was playing, and they played the most beautiful music and just the most beautiful songs, and I just melted. Like, I just completely melted. And it was so powerful, because it was like it sunk into my soul, and I really truly believed the words that were being sung. Sorry. And yeah, and I just prayed. I just kept praying, please God, let it not be true. The diagnosis that my mom had gotten was pretty grim. It was not a good diagnosis. And I was like, please just let it not be true. And I swear I will follow you for the rest of my life. And I just kept saying that over and over and over again. And I learned about Jesus. I knew who he was, but I didn't know what he represented, or what that actually meant, what Jesus meant. What I learned that night is, Jesus was really the bridge. You're here, God is here, God is love, but Jesus is really the bridge that connects you to the Father, to the, to him. And so she asked us to come up and give our life to Jesus. And I was like, oh gosh, I don't want to be one of those Jesus people. That was one of the things. I was like, I don't want to be one of those Jesus people. But I was at a point in my life where I was like, am I going to stay the same? Do I want to change? God had been tugging on my heart so many times. He tried to pull me here, tried to get me here, tried to get me here. You've been tugging on my heart for so long. But I never was able to take that step until that night, and I went up and I gave my life to Jesus. Like, I gave my heart and my soul, and I said yes. And I asked, I was like, please come into my heart, change me, because I was so ready. The first thing that I did, I deleted all the dating applications. I, did all that stuff and gave my life to him. And I was like, if you just do this one thing, just make it not be true. Give me a second chance with my mom. I will follow you for the rest of my life. And I went home. I went back to my hotel room, woke up the next morning, and my mom called me in the morning, 6 a.m. and said, Jaxx, it's not true. And that that freaked me out. And I was like, what? And she said they had misdiagnosed her. And that she, had a complication with a previous surgery or something. They were going to do an emergency surgery on her, but she said, I'm going to be okay. And I was like, what? I threw the phone. I was like, that was fast. was like, well, I guess I gotta follow you now, you know. And I went back, and I finished the rest of that weekend up. But I had never been the same ever since I walked out of that event. It really just completely altered my whole entire world. And my mom and I have been able to communicate. We've been able to really restore our relationship. I really didn't think that it could be restored, but it is. I've been able to use the skill sets and the things that I've learned at these events, just in my job. You know, this last year, 2020, I know has been so hard for so many people. I talked to, you know, the 65 and older, the people that are terrified right now because of COVID. You know, people that have been locked in their houses and they're suicidal. People that don't, you know what to do or where to turn to. And, you know, I'm just so blessed. I get the privilege to serve those people and just to be a light and to talk to them and to listen to them. And, you know, anytime I find somebody that, you know, they're not yet there, you know, they haven't yet come to their point where they want to give their heart and their life to you know, Yeshua. I feel happy for them because I know that it's gonna come. You know, sometimes it takes a little bit of time. For me, it took 31 years. You know, when I did, it's just been amazing. You know, I feel so, you know, just so lucky that I was able to find that, because I know that there's so many people out there right now today that knowledge that God is for you. He's not against you. You know, he wants you to succeed. He accepts you. He, you know, I tell this to my kids. You know, we learned from I don't, am I allowed to say Danny?
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
We learned from Danny, you know, that God loves you. He accepts you. He, you know, wants your success, and he's preparing you for something great. I remind myself that every day. And so when I hear people and I get to talk to people that are hurting, and I get to just listen to them and make them feel better, and you know, maybe give them a medicine or just cry. Like a couple weeks ago, I was talking to a woman. She was in her 70s, COPD, was diagnosed positive with COVID, and her husband passed away. And we just cried together. We just cried, you know, and she's scared, you know, she's alone. And then on top of it, doesn't get to grieve with her family, you know, because she has COVID. So she has to isolate and grieve alone. You know, we lost a family member, our Papa Mondo. You know, you know, he graduated into the kingdom on October 26th. You know, but he passed away alone in the hospital. I just think the nurses, first responders, the people out there that are you know, that are on the front lines, and they're taking care of people that are sick. They're taking care of people that are hurting, and it's hard. You know, as a mother with two kids in different grades, you know, they don't understand. They don't understand, you know, why we have to walk around with masks on all day. And I just keep thinking, you know, God wouldn't put us through something without teaching us something, you know. You know, I think this, for me, just this last year just taught me how much more I need to be there for my kids, how much more present I need to be there for my kids, how much more important it is to talk about God, to talk about that He loves them, that He's for them, you know, that we're not being punished, you know, that this is just one step in something great that is to come. That's what I just keep reminding myself. And I know that, you know, like I said, I'm still working through the things. I still consider myself a baby Christian, even though I've been following, and gave Jesus my heart, 3 years ago. I still feel like I'm a baby in Christ, and I think people, I know for me, even when I gave my heart to Jesus, looking at the Bible, it was intimidating. I was like, oh, this is just the craziest thing. It's intimidating to even like think about reading it, and how do these people memorize all these scriptures and all this stuff. I had a cousin, he was like, a chapter is like 2 paragraphs, right? And I was like, what? I started reading the Proverbs was the first book that I ever read. And I read Proverbs, and just slowly, one chapter, one page at a time, I just have been digging into the word. And it really does bring peace. It brings peace when you're feeling lonely, when you're feeling scared, when you feel like there's no way out, when you feel like everything's falling apart. You can literally look in this book, and you can put it, it will pertain to your life, whatever is going on, whatever, it will speak to you. I've started reading just one chapter at a time, one paragraph at a time. It's been 2 years, and slowly making my way about halfway through now. Don't ever give up. I would say, don't ever give up. Don't ever think that your story is insignificant. Don't ever feel that God isn't working in your life, because he works in your life even when you don't believe in yourself. He believes in you.
Wow, Jaxx, this was so amazing. What blows me away the most in you sharing your story, and I've heard it before, but hearing you tell it again, it was so amazing to see the transition of somebody who started out viewing God, like you said, like a Santa type figure, not sure how to interact with him, not sure how he feels about you, to this place where you're at now. And the transition and the extremes of the two is so huge. And to get to that place in a matter of 3 years in your relationship with him, that's so incredible. Mm-hmm. You are such an overcomer, and your overcomer journey is with the Father, and it's absolutely beautiful. Like how solid you are in your faith in the Father and your trust in him, like is a night and day difference from that Santa figure you viewed as a kid. So amazing. Thank you for sharing your journey and your journey with him, with all those who are tuning in today. I know without a shadow of a doubt that people who are listening were impacted and could relate to a lot of the stuff that you shared, a lot of feelings and struggles that you've been through. So I have one question as we're tailing up the end of this interview, and that is, if you could tell somebody who was listening one piece of advice that maybe has had the same struggles you've had, and they're maybe in them right now. They're afraid. COVID is in the world like crazy. Maybe they're a single mom and their kids don't like what's going on. What piece of advice would you give that single mom?
Keep fighting. Keep fighting. Like, it's this story is not over. God is not done with you yet. He's not done with you yet. He's not finished. You're an amazing person. You're a work of art. Yeah, I believe. I love to say, go back to that the person that God created you to be, that original template. He created you. He put all those little quirks and all those things that are about you, that he put those inside of you on purpose. And just to continue to fight. Be a light everywhere you go. Be a light to your kids, to your family, to your coworkers, to the grocery person that's bagging your groceries. Just be a light and keep up the fight.
So good. So a lot of people wonder when they're hearing someone's story like yours, how they can help. How can we come beside you, my friend, as a single mom, and you're impacting so many people in the industry you're in and you're being a light, how can we come beside you?
Well, I feel like, well, first off, I got over my issue with tithing. When you give, it makes you feel so amazing. Like when you help somebody and you do something, it actually makes you feel so amazing. So I love King's Ransom. That's where I usually will put all my money, my tithe. And I do it to different places. Recently, I've been really, really super, excited about Africa. In Africa, if you go to King's Ransom, 100% of your donation goes to helping the widow, the orphan, and the poor. But there's a water campaign in Africa for $11. You can bring water to somebody for life. So if you want to make an impact as far as where, if you want to know where to put your money, I would say put your money there. And then also too, just in my industry, like I said, I work with I work as a medical assistant for a medical group. If you want to help people like me that are working in my industry, call your grandma who's 80 years old and just have a conversation, 5-minute conversation. Call your your aunt or your cousin or whoever. Just reach out to people, because I don't think that people understand that I think technology is an amazing thing. Look at us right now. We're on Zoom. We're having this conversation. We're hundreds of miles away from each other. But I think social media, and I don't want to say anything negative about it, but it has taken away the personal communication with each other. And what I find when I talk to people every single day that are hurting from COVID, is that people are wanting connection. So call your grandma, call your mom, call your dad. Just say how you doing. Give them some love, and not just a heart on Facebook. Like actually, like pick up the phone and talk to them.
So good. I love that you said that. That was amazing. So you heard it. If you want to come beside Jaxx and not only help rescue kids from the sex trade, you want to help feed and house orphans and widows around the world, you can look up www.kingsransomfoundation.org to get involved. And like she said, 100% of what you donate goes straight to help these people in need. So if you have a heart like Jaxx does, and you care about other people and you want to make an impact, check out kingsransomfoundation.org. Jaxx, thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you for your courage. Thank you for your vulnerability. And thank you for your love for your family. Thank you for your love for your 2 boys. Thank you for your love for your mom and your dad and your family. Thank you for your love for the Father. And thank you for your love for other people. You care so much about other people and are being such an amazing light right now where it is so dark. You are bringing light into a very dark place, and you're doing so just because of who you are. They can see that there is something different about you, and it's attractive. That alone is making such a huge impact. So the fact that you had this journey with the Father and you know who he is now, that alone is such a gift to our world right now, and to every single person that you're getting to sit down with and just honor by listening to them, by letting them cry beside you. You are giving such an amazing gift to every single person you meet. So know that you are making such a beautiful impact. And I'm so proud of you. And I'm honored to call you a friend. So seriously, thank you for joining us today. And thank you for sharing your story. I know that there was a lot of people listening who are going to be so touched and so impacted that they're going to be reaching out to you. And I can't wait for you to meet some of these people. So feel free to reach out to Jaxx if you would like to connect with her. But thank you again for connecting with us today, my friend. I love you, and I'm proud of you.
Love you too. Thanks.
Wow, wasn't that powerful? Do you have an overcomer story?
Do you know someone who needs to hear this message? Please share this video on your social platforms and tag us so we know who you are. Stay tuned as we share more overcomer stories in the weeks ahead. We're looking for you. We're looking for the overcomers. Join us. Let's come together as the overcomers. Start sharing your story. We have multiple ways you can start getting involved and repping the movement, repping your story of what he has done in your life. For example, we've got journals. You can start writing your story down. Start getting it out of your head and on paper. We've got bracelets. Start repping that we're a group that are coming together to inspire people. We've got t-shirts and sweatshirts to not only remind yourself that you're filled with gold, but everybody around you, that your story is powerful. And don't forget, you can pick up a copy of Finding His Voice on Amazon. An Overcomer's Journey from Suicide to Success. An Overcomer's Journey which launched this very movement. And last but not least, if you want to learn how to overcome, visit www.dannyjohnson.com. That's my coach, and that's where I learned how to overcome. Thank you so much for joining with us today. We believe in you, and we believe in the power of story. We believe in your story.